Ace's Wild, Opium and Order, Episode 12.
All right. I'm ready to ride, y'all. Let's do this.
Sitting away from the campfire, in a time before Sean McGregor was ever addressed as Mr., he and his buddies sat watching their comrades act foolishly. Overcome by the fog of opium, the rest of the gang cut loose like belligerent buffoons, laughing, blindly firing, stumbling around, seething with discontent. The young McGregor hated what became of his outlaw gang. There was no discipline, no order, and no common sense. Only chaos.
I thought we were only selling this junk, not using it.
Yeah, look at Haygood. He can't even stand. What kind of leader's that?
We don't even have any money left from that stagecoach job. It all went to pay off that half-blind Chinese guy.
Whittling away on a hunk of oak, Jeb flung his knife's point into the ground at his feet. Sitting, they watched the other gang members lose to the whims of an alternate reality. Sean and his friends continued growing angrier over the downfall of their bandit family. Loyalty had gone wayside some time ago, and the group, once thick as thieves, laid more broken by the day. Particularly taken back sat Sean. This was not the life he left Mom and Dad for. He no longer lived the glory days of a marauder lifestyle. In fact, the only stories coming out of recent adventures were foul tales unworthy of mention, much less ballads. Already at wit's end, a stray bullet striking the tree he sat against was all it took to finally send Sean over the edge.
Hey, what are you doing?
Shane belted out, watching his friend draw iron, marching for the campfire. Raising his pistol, Sean finally decided it was time for regime change. Shooting Haygood in the head at point-blank range, the no-longer boy stepped up to lead a now much smaller group of outlaws. As the stoned men tried to gather their wits, seeking the revenge of their dead boss, Sean and his buddies cleaned up camp. In an act that symbolized becoming a man, in Sean's eyes at least, he made the others take an oath. From here on out, they would return to an earlier path, agreeing that no one in their new gang would use the narcotic from the Orient. Instead of losing control to the substance, they would use opium as a tool to control the will of others. Discipline, order, and style returned to the bandits' way of life, and from here on out, if anyone wrote stories of this bunch, they would be of the fiercest men these parts ever saw. Shaking off the memory, Mr. McGregor lifted a mostly charred bustle from a burnt-out waste bin. Taking a whiff, he let out a resounding, There was no doubt in his mind that mischief ran afoot. Catching Shane's attention, McGregor sent him inside to count the vault. While Shane accounted for the lost cash, McGregor went to have words with Mr. Covington at the saloon. Everyone grew quiet as McGregor entered the saloon. Mr. Covington, who was tending to paperwork in the back room, noticed the silence. Stepping out, he met the boss, but platitudes were short-lived as the two dove straight into a debate. But arguing with McGregor always proved pointless. Grabbing a bottle of whiskey, the man seemingly in control of town took a swig before handing it to Jeb and Pierce. The ladies of the saloon gawked in dismay as Mr. Covington begrudgingly raised the price of a bath. With the swipe of a pen, $2 became $3, setting chatter loose amongst the patrons as McGregor and his men sauntered out the door. Back in the street, the men's attention turned towards Sweet Tooth's. Pointing towards the opium den, McGregor pulled a package wrapped in paper from his satchel bag. Taking the package with a nod, Jeb headed for the shop. The gang leader stood in the street looking around, taking notice of his Durnville investments. It was time to visit the sheriff. Hopping on his horse, he trotted to go pay the lawman a visit. Masters didn't see him coming until the last minute. Tossing his flask into the desk, he sat to attention as his invader opened the door.
Sheriff Masters, how's my town?
Fidgeting in his seat, the sheriff responded,
Well, everything's fine, sir, Mr. McGregor.
Leaning across the desk, the head bandit took measures of the man's authenticity. He cut a figure that could intimidate even the lawman.
So then, nothing to report about the bank?
The bank? Surely you don't want to be bothered with a little wastebasket fire. It was out in a minute.
Interrupting, he realized the man wasn't lying, just dense.
I'm talking about the heist, not the fire.
Heist? There's been no bank heist.
The fire was a ruse, you fat, worthless moron!
Leaning in, both hands on the desk, the imposing figure scolded the sheriff.
You listen here. Shane's in the vault, counting me money, and you will be held accountable for every missing red cent.
Attempting to act tough, the sheriff glared into McGregor's eyes, but the gaze stayed only short-lived. Realizing he had no real say in the matter, Masters dropped his head.
Yes, sir, Mr. McGregor.
Breaking away, the outlaw shot for the door.
Prices are going up, Mr. Masters, and you're to blame.
Slamming the door behind him, McGregor yelled to Pierce.
I want eyes on Chase McCoy and Chance Young. I want to know what they're doing and when they're doing it. If one of them scratches their ass, I want to know about it.
McGregor remained furious, and the next couple of weeks added to his ferocity. He could tell his grip on the town started to loosen. When the opium den got vandalized, it sent shivers down his spine. Keeping up the flow of opium continued as McGregor's #1 priority. And it had been his priority since the deal he made with the Chinese devil long, long ago. When the ornate Oriental-style wagon rode into town with its glowing Chinese lanterns, McGregor knew something had to be done soon, or it would be him hanging in the streets next. He felt the tightening of the tension and the pressure to keep his control over town in line all the more at the realization. Sitting on the corner of the once bustling Durnville Opera House sat a beggar holding a tin cup. His beard and hair were mangled. His clothes looked like worn-out grain sacks. Hanging his head, he lightly shook the cup side to side. Seemingly, that's all he had the energy to do until McGregor and his men showed up. Pierce approached the vagabond as McGregor put a handkerchief over his nose, attempting to block the stench. After speaking with the beggar, Pierce handed the man a small package. Coming to life, he smiled a snaggletooth grin before darting around the corner into the alley. Turning around, Pierce gave a signal that it was safe to carry on. Walking past the tattered posters for shows that came and left months ago, McGregor and Shane entered the opera house, while Pierce and Jeb stood guard outside. Through the lobby into the opera room, McGregor and Shane passed 2 more guards, but these 2 showed they were from the Orient. Wearing gold-banded shirts and black trousers, one stood on each side of the doorway. Most of the opera house was empty, the exception being the first few rows of seating. Sitting closest to the stage were more of McGregor's black and red-clad men. Behind them sat plain-clothes gents from around town. As McGregor walked down the carpet toward the stage, Shane collected money from each row. It appeared oddly coordinated, like an usher collecting tithings at church. Halting shy of going on stage, McGregor turned to face his men. The first row looked eerily similar to one another. Same outfits, clean-shaven, dark-haired, and perfectly postured. The rest looked like a hodgepodge, giving the impression the suited men proceeded as some sort of generals. After staring at his militia for a moment, McGregor broke the silence.
It seems we have some business to attend to.
Overlooking the room from a dimly lit stage sat Master Chin, an elderly man with milky eyes and a long gray goatee, wearing a black conical hat. Beside him stood an Asian woman who appeared to be in servitude. Leaning in, the elderly man spoke to her, after which she made her way to the stairs and stepped down off the stage. Walking up to McGregor, she whispered as he handed her Shane's collection. Receiving a soft shoe gesture, she nodded and walked back to Chin. Handing over the money, she poured him a cup of tea from a porcelain teapot. As the tea was poured, McGregor pulled out his pistol. Pointing it across his chest, he shot Shane standing beside him, who fell dead as the room sat in silence. Without missing a beat, 2 men rose from the back, collecting the corpse. They dragged it down the carpet, removing Shane from the opera room. McGregor stood menacingly overlooking his men.
Shane has been given an early retirement. His failures have led to an uprising. Mr. McCoy and his group of misfits have made fools of us. The Comanche helped seize our house, but they did not help rob my bank, steal my dynamite, or hang your brothers. Even as I speak, McCoy is gathering men, paying them to subvert us, using my gold right now in the saloon. Y'all sit while they're here planning to overthrow our whole way of life. So go! Get out!
Throwing his hands into the air, McGregor commanded the men into action. Quickly filing out of the opera room, the plainclothed men dispersed while the others paid homage to Shane, leaning against the exit. From the opera house, 6 soldiers headed to the saloon. Meanwhile, at Chase and Friends, a lone man from the Orient poked out from the trees, firing 3 flaming arrows into the house before disappearing back into the woods. Six men in black and red duds lined up in front of the saloon. Folding back their dusters in unison, they drew and fired. The first shot to cut through the saloon struck the piano player. The next 35 shots plucked out a different tune, one of mayhem and horror, backed by screams. As bullets rang out, Chase managed to overturn a table, shielding himself and Bell. Booze splattered through the air as broken glass fell to the ground. Wood and lead flew everywhere. Reaching for Abby, Chase watched as she fell, struck dead. A bullet pierced her gut. The terror of looming death washing over her face. At the realization the next breath would be her last, Chase saw her demise, unable to help. The bullet seemed to fly forever. Then, all at once, everything grew eerily silent. Chase looked over the table to see the assailants escaping. Climbing over, he ran outside. Taking cover on the porch, he peeked around the corner, managing to shoot one man as the others returned fire. A bullet struck Chase's wood-planked cover and shrapnel raked across his cheek. Unwavering, he returned fire as McGregor's men mounted their horses, riding away. Looking around in disbelief, Chase saw the bullet-riddled saloon, screams erupting from within. There was no way he would catch McGregor's men now, and Bell needed help. While tending to the wounded, they couldn't believe the carnage. Over half the saloon lay dead. They patched up those they could and covered the others. Tonight, there would be no more talk of a train heist. As they checked for further possible injured among the rubble, a figure familiar was noticed behind the bar. Johnny also surrendered to the gunfire. Chase and Bell were covered in the others' blood before the eve's end. After the slaughter at the saloon, they headed home, having no idea the night could possibly get worse. Sitting on the porch, Chance watched for Friends, enjoying one of the few vices he had left. Taking long draws off his stogie, he practiced blowing smoke rings when he heard a thump against the house, quickly followed by 2 more. Getting up, he walked around back to see what the noise was about. Stuck in the wall was a flaming arrow.
Fire! Get out! Get out now!
Taking off his jacket, he used it to put out the flames from the first arrow spreading across the wall. Running inside, he saw Tatsuo panic-stricken.
Get Jack and get out now!
Tatsuo nodded, making way to his room. Chance ran for the storeroom, hoping to keep the whole house from blowing up before it was too late. Honey stood outside Jack's door, barking relentlessly. Reaching for the doorknob, Tatsuo burnt her hand. One of the arrows journeyed through Jack's window, setting his room on fire. Running outside around to his window, Tatsuo started beating on it. Smoke billowed out when it broke. Trying to climb through, she choked on the smoke. Tears rolled down her face as all seemed lost.
Chance, help! I can't.
she cried when through the darkness came a harrowing war cry. Red Sky flew off his horse through the front of the house. Kicking in Jack's door, he coughed and fumbled through the smoke. Hearing a whimper, he found the boy. Slinging Jack over his shoulder, he braved the fire, bringing Jack to Tatsuo's side, before heading straight back into the burning home. Jack nearly crumbled to his feet while gaining his breath and trying to stand. Tatsuo led him away from the burning house and made him sit nearby to rest. Busting into the storeroom, Red Sky found Chance frantic. The fire spread as he threw everything he could out the window. Grabbing Chance by the collar, Red Sky forced him outside just in time. Breaking away, Chance ran around the side of the house to grab the few things he could save: some shells and a couple of bundles of dynamite. After tossing them far from the house, he ran to hold Jack and Tatsuo. Honey paced back and forth in front of the burning building. Upset, she didn't know how to help. Seeing the flames from afar, Chase and Belle rode harder, getting home just in time to see the rafters collapsing. Standing there holding Belle, Chase watched as his home burnt to the ground. Everyone watched quietly and stunned. The only sounds existing were crackling flames, interrupted by the occasional combusting ammo and exploding dynamite. Dynamite that shook the ground.